Can I have your attention, please? Calling all new moms, seasoned moms, soon-to-be moms, and all you mamas in between. Welcome to the MomFriends podcast. I am your host, Rach, and I am so happy to have you here. I hope this podcast gives you conversations that help you to not feel so alone. Because even though it seems like we're surrounded by bodies 24/7, motherhood can still feel really lonely at times. And how are we supposed to know all this stuff? Join us for conversations where we keep it real, keep it honest, and maybe even get a little controversial. There's only one little catch. This is a safe space and there is no room for judgment or mom shaming. So let's all be kind, keep an open mind, and enjoy ourselves. Let's get into it. Hello, my beautiful mom friends. Welcome back to the pod. Today, I am here with my friend Nicole, and we are going to be diving into our pumping journey, exclusive pumping journey. So welcome, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, Mike. That's okay. Just to give everyone a little context, I want you to say, who made you a mom, how many kids you have, their ages, and if you're comfortable sharing their name, then you can.
My husband, Cody, and I had Oliver. He is now a year old.
Oh my goodness.
I also have a stepson from Cody, his son, Sam, and he just turned 5 in March. So, yeah,
so
we're
you're
busy.
2-boying it now.
Yeah, we are.
That's amazing. Actually, it's actually ironic. I was just thinking about before we started was that our friendship is funny that it's MomFriends podcast because we were friends before, but I feel like getting pregnant around the same time and having our kids 6 weeks apart, really friendship. MomFriends.
Solidified it.
Yeah. We talked a little bit, but then I think it definitely was oh, you're cool shit. And we get each other.
I just kept running to you too, being oh my God, what's happening? And because you had just gone through whatever it was 6 weeks prior.
Right. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So for context, my son is 6 weeks older than your son. So that's pretty cool. They're not total buddies yet, but they're still
someday.
One, so. Yeah. We're going to force them to be friends. It's fine. So yeah, let's go back to the beginning. Actually, you know what? Before we dive in, this, for people who don't know what exclusive pumping is, basically it's when you use a pump to express, or hand pump, electric pump or hand pump to express your breast milk, and then you feed your baby through bottles. So there's a lot of reasons why moms do it. Maybe it's because of latching issues, or even just their choice, or they have to go back to work. Whatever their decision is. Sometimes we just get down this pumping journey, so let's dive in. What about the start of your feeding journey? I think you supplemented with formula in the hospital for a little bit, right? Or no?
Yeah, so it was, we did end up having to do formula, but it's so crazy. I was trying to think about how did this start? Because I wanted to breastfeed so bad. And I really struggled with the emotional part of struggling with breastfeeding. Oliver was born with, we were both diagnosed with, I gotta say this right, chorioamnionitis, I think is the name of it. Basically, it's just an infection of the amniotic fluid. It can be really bad, but they caught it 10 minutes before I delivered him.
Whoa.
And
how did they do blood tests or something?
I can't remember. It was so totally wild.
Fair.
I was trying to figure out how did that take so long? But basically they broke my water at 7 a.m, and Oliver was born just before 11. And 10 minutes before he was born, this whole team came in because they were no, she needs antibiotics, and they're she's having a baby right now, and then they're
Jesus.
So basically I knew when he was gonna be born that I got to snuggle with him for a little bit, but he was gonna be taken to the neonatal care unit to be set up with an IV for 72-hour antibiotics.
Shit.
So I think that was the beginning of my struggling with breastfeeding.
Because, normally a half an hour after they're born, they're just hey, get them on the boob.
Yeah.
But you didn't have that.
I didn't have that. So,
wow.
My first experience with breastfeeding was I'm in a wheelchair in, the care unit, and he's hooked up to all these wires. And so not only am I like not knowing what I'm doing, but he's like, I'm so afraid to like nudge his wires or like something come loose or something pull. Like, so there was that.
Jeez.
So he was in that unit for 3 or 4 days. I can't remember when they decided that he could go home, and but that he had to come back for another bilirubin test.
Okay. Yeah.
And I did not put together that bilirubin was the test, like testing bilirubin was the test for jaundice. They didn't explain that part.
Oh, so you're like, that's just a big word. Okay, sure.
I'm just like, okay, cool. Like, I'll come back tomorrow. No big deal. I'll just do what I'm told.
Fuck that means.
Because like, you just had a baby, so your brain's just like, whoa.
Oh my God. And you're like, I don't even know what to do with this thing if it wasn't needing any tests, right? Let alone.
Yeah. So because I had been in the hospital with him for 3 or 4 days, I was so used to setting an alarm and trying to get him to latch.
Okay.
When babies are in the NICU across Ontario, as far as I understand, they have access to donor breast milk.
Oh.
So that's what we were supplementing with when I wasn't sure if he was latching or getting enough to eat.
Right.
But then when we left the hospital, they're like, you got to go to formula now. And we needed to get that bilirubin back up. So they're just like, just keep doing what you're doing and come back in the morning for his testing and see the lactation consultant, who I hadn't seen yet.
Jeez.
Yeah, so...
You were there for 3 to 4 days,
and there were
struggling latching, and you didn't see them yet?
No, like like someone came in really quick, took time out of her schedule to like jump in and try and help me.
Yeah.
But it was so rushed, and like in that
it's overwhelming.
Care unit, you don't really have privacy. And there were times where I kept thinking like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's latched, but I know now that there was nothing actually being removed.
Okay.
Just because he was there and on it doesn't mean it was working or whatever, and my milk hadn't actually come in yet either, so it was just like,
how are you supposed to first time, like, how are you supposed to know?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
You think it's normal, but, like, how do you know if it's not? Because you've never fucking done it before.
I think that's what's happening.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Aww.
But we came back in the morning, and they're like, yeah, you're going to have to come back tonight for another testing, because his bilirubin still wasn't high enough, like, where they wanted it to be.
Okay.
And I couldn't, at this point, like, I, again, didn't put 2 and 2 together, the jaundice. Like, I know what the signs are for jaundice, but they were talking to me about bilirubin, and your brain falls out when you have a baby, so you're just like, not sleeping.
It comes out with all the fluid. It's like,
yeah. So I got my mom to come with me for that last testing.
Okay.
I was in the lactation consultant room waiting for the pediatrician to give me the results for Oliver's bilirubin test. This is when my milk came in. So all of a sudden, I'm in the hospital with just my diaper bag and a haka. That's all I got. And my baby who hasn't latched yet, and my milk just came in. And like I was in
that's
so
what it's supposed to feel
much pain. Like, I was like so uncomfortable, and like trying
gosh.
to get it out with just a haka, which is, as we know, probably making it worse. And the pediatrician came in, and she was an angel, and I can't even remember her name, and I only saw her the one time, and she was just like, she spoke to me so sweetly and so nicely.
Oh my gosh.
She told me how amazing I was, and she was just like, from everything you're telling me, because Oliver wasn't staying awake for his feeds, I couldn't get him to drink the feeds. She's like, yeah, so you're gonna have to stay. And I didn't know that was gonna happen.
Oh no.
So my mom had to run home and get my clothes, but so they got me into the pediatric side of the hospital.
Okay.
To put Oliver under the lamp.
Right. To
get his levels back up. And again, I'm still used to setting my alarm and feeding him and stuff, but now my milk's come in. So I had this really wonderful nurse who just like told me exactly what to do. She's like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to pump for 10 minutes. You're going to feed him. Or I can't remember what order she said it in. It might have been, you're going to wake up, order the milk, feed him, because I just order the formula to be warmed up from the nurse and brought to you. And then you're going to pump before you go to sleep. And, like, before you feed him, you're going to try and latch him, too. But she gave me, like, a very specific regiment that I just followed. And I just did that. And I'm like, yeah, I can.
You're like, ma'am, yes, ma'am. Okay. This is what I have to do.
This is what I'm going to do.
Okay. Here we go.
But all this whole time, like, I still really want to breastfeed.
Yeah. So
and
he was
just
drinking the formula. Was he then drinking your breast milk?
Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
so
like, we were supplementing,
okay.
like, with, like, those little tiny bottles that have the orange lids.
Oh my God, they're
like,
so small.
Yeah, and, like, you have to be really careful with, like, pace feeding because the flow on them, there's, like, no control.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't have to use them.
Yeah, so we only had to stay there the one night, and the next morning, like, that previous night, they said, like, oh, we're going to get you in with the lactation consultant in the morning. Like, don't worry, like, you're going to have an appointment. What I didn't understand was that I had to go somewhere for this appointment. I was not told I had to leave. I was expecting someone to show up and help me.
Yeah.
And by the time I figured out that wasn't happening, I just wanted to get out of there. I just wanted to go back home.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be with my husband.
How long at this point? Like over a week?
About a week, or yeah, it was 8. That was like day 8 that we were like leaving the hospital again.
God.
To feel like what it was like finally going home.
And staying home.
Oops.
Yeah.
So at that point, I had reached out to a private lactation consultant, but she couldn't see me for another week.
Oh my God.
And so after another 3 days of literally just crying and my mom being like, you can't, this isn't how it's supposed to be. You shouldn't be this sad.
Right.
And I booked an appointment at the hospital instead of waiting for the one to come to me. Or I kept that appointment, but I went to the one at the hospital. And that was 16 days after Oliver was born. And that was the first time he actually latched.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she got both sides. And, like, this woman is a freaking hero of all babies. She just, like, boop, latched. Like, I don't know how she did it.
Magic hands.
Basically.
Yeah,
and I mean,
incredible.
Part of it's like I only have 2 hands and like anybody else helping me doesn't have experience. So like, yeah. So she obviously is very good at what she does.
God bless that woman.
Yeah.
But
I ended up exclusively pumping after, I think that's when I started thinking about it. I'd started hearing, I think I reached out to you to be like,
how's it going?
I am at my wit's end.
Yeah.
Like,
because I think that was probably, if you were about 16 days, okay, I would have probably just been into the full pumping. Because I think I tried breastfeeding for like a month.
Okay.
Ish. I literally cannot remember, which is insane how long it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, like, where you were going into it. I don't know if I skewed you at all or anything, but I know for me, I was like so naive to everything when it came to it. Like, I'd only talked to one other mom before, and she was like, to no fault of hers, but she had only had her experience with it, and easy. She's like, I just pumped, and I had a freezer stash and blah, blah. So I'm like, sweet, that sounds amazing, right? And we weren't super close, so we didn't get so into detail. But I was like, oh, so I had this whole thing of like, that's no problem. He can't latch very well. I'm getting kind of frustrated. I'm just going to exclusively pump. I'm going to pump for 6 months. I'm going to have 6 months in the freezer, and I'm going to be done, and he'll have my breast milk for a year, and it'll be fucking great, and I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be a pumping queen. And I was like, well, that's not how it worked out at all. So, like, I don't know, like, for you, like, did you have any kind of picture of how it was going to be or any kind of preconceived ideas about it?
Well, my preconceived ideas were that I didn't know that was an option.
A lot of people don't.
So I'm in this place where I think, like, I wanted to do, I know fed is best, but I wanted to do the absolute best. I wanted to do, you know, and I wanted that.
A lot of moms feel like that.
That bonding experience. And
yeah.
I was so afraid that I was, and formula's expensive.
I'm so sorry. I was like, there's a big ass fucking fly about to go in your mimosa.
No.
Okay, wow. Formula is very expensive.
Yeah, so I'm like, I don't know what I'm, like, I don't want to do formula. I really don't want to.
Yeah.
And yeah, so when you mentioned, you're just like, oh yeah, actually I exclusively pump. And I was like, well, what's that?
Yeah. Tell me everything.
And I don't even think I asked you for details at that point.
I don't think so.
I joined a group on Facebook.
You sent me the group.
Yeah,
actually,
exclusively pumping mamas, I think is the title. And I just like dove headfirst into the research of it.
Yeah.
I saw that other lactation consultant, and it was not really a good experience because I still had to supplement with formula, and that was against her beliefs. So anyways, we parted ways.
Wow.
I did get to get him to latch one more time in my home, which I think I needed for like to get past that like grieving stage.
For sure.
And then, yeah, I dove right into exclusively pumping. Yeah.
So that would have been, what, probably like 3 weeks at this point?
3 weeks, yeah.
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 That's crazy. And you know what? I understand, I appreciate what you're saying about, like, all the emotion that goes with it, because I wasn't the same way, in the way that I was, like, super set on breastfeeding. I knew I wanted to try.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, you know, so many moms do formula, like, it's fine. I don't judge it whatsoever. Like you said, fed is best.
Mm-hmm.
But we all have this pressure we put on ourselves, and sometimes you don't even realize it. Like, when I was making the decision to switch and then to stop down the road, oh my God, like, I thought I was going to be, no problem, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Man, I was so emotional. I felt so guilty, even though, like, you know, your kid's being fed, and that's the most important thing. But it's like, you have this, I'm failing as a mom, or my body's failing me, or whatever emotion it is, it's heavy. And nobody, no matter what anyone says, they're not going to take that away from you. You have to go through your grieving process on your own. And what do you think did at that last final appointment?
I actually returned back to the lactation consultant at the hospital. And she was, I'm going to get emotional if I'm not careful. But she was the one who was just like, you're going to grieve this. Like, and she's like, I'm really, really sorry that I didn't get to see you sooner. Oh my God. And she was basically like, the next time you have a baby, we'll do this. Like, you're going to see me right away. And I was just like, I am. So... yeah, but it was that, and the research for doing EP, because that way I sort of was just like, oh, like, I have an alternative to keep giving my baby breast milk.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. What did you find, like, I think going into it, probably at the start, was like, okay, cool. Did you find anything off the bat was hard about it? Like the worst part where you're like, oh, I didn't expect this.
I think it was just, kind of so many little things. Like...
things you don't think about, yeah.
The output that I was expecting versus the output that I got. Okay. Was always kind of disheartening in the beginning. Because I was... a not enougher, as the EP community calls it. So I had to supplement with formula because I wasn't producing enough.
Oh my gosh.
To feed him his next feed. So I'd have to top it off with formula. Okay. So that was hard. And then...
yeah, because you're not expecting it. You're expecting, okay, I'm going to pump, have the milk that he needs, and then move on. I'll pump the next time and move on. Yeah.
And then, like, Oliver is a hungry guy.
As most boys are.
It's not, and it wasn't that he ate a lot, it was that he ate often. It was 2 hours on the dot that he woke up hungry as a newborn. for the first like 3 months, I would say.
Wow.
It was like 2
and that's hard
hours
to
on
keep
the
up
dot.
with too, because a lot of times everyone's like typical pumping schedule is every 2 to 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not doing it before, like, how are you supposed to get that much milk?
So essentially, yeah, and my schedule would be, so say it was midnight that he woke me up. I'd have to warm up the bottle that I had in the fridge, because I did eventually get into at least a rhythm where I could
Had one bottle ahead.
have one bottle ahead, but it wasn't a full bottle, that sort of thing. One pump ahead.
Right.
So I'd warm that up in the warmer while I got him changed, and then I would feed him the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And so there goes about half an hour. And then I had to have to pump. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably like, at that point, I was doing about 15 minutes. Probably give it 20 minutes by the time you set up and take down.
Sure.
And then, so that's 45 minutes. And then I was lucky. He always fell asleep after I fed him.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
I just laid him down, pumped, washed the dishes. And by the time I was crawling back into bed, I knew I had 45 minutes before he was waking up again.
Do it all over again.
All over again. And like the pumping dishes.
Oh, right. That's something you don't think of.
No.
It is so much work, because
it's so many little pieces.
Every single time you have to wash it.
I tried the fridge hack.
What's that?
So it was...
But you never told me about no fridge hack.
Because you didn't want to do it. Oh. So you took your pump parts and you put them in a sealed Ziploc bag and you put them in the fridge instead of washing them.
Because milk stays fine in the fridge.
Right. I ended up getting thrush.
Oh.
And I had thrush for the first 3 months because I couldn't get rid of it. Yeah. So that was another...
Did you ever have any clogged ducts doing it?
A couple times.
Because I think I remember talking to you. Like, I know I had it... I want to say 2 or 3 times, and I know 2 for sure. I'm sure it was mastitis. I never went to the hospital, but, like, yeah. I was, like, 24 hours ill. Like, just couldn't move. Definitely. Everything was sore. I was shaking. I was cold. I was fevered. Like, I was like, oh, fuck. And then you have to just work it out, because I'm like, I'm not going to the fucking hospital for this. Are you kidding? Definitely
sounds like mastitis, because I never got that far.
No, just sore.
Yeah, and I think because I was pumping so frequently... That like
it doesn't have time to sit
really,
there.
Yeah, it really didn't. I didn't have the option to just like get a little extra sleep. So the couple times that I did have it, it was ice that made all the difference.
Oh, okay.
Because like I kept thinking like warm and in the shower might help, but really like what we know, or at least what I learned, was it's not necessarily like a hardening of the milk inside your ducts. It's an inflammation of the ducts holding the milk back. So lots and lots of ice.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Advil, if you need it, I
guess.
Yeah,
Advil.
I think I took it. I think I definitely took Tylenol once or twice with it, because it was like so sore, and I was like fevered and stuff too. So I was like, okay, this fucking sucks. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a huge mental, and like, I know for me, I always felt like, I mean, I tried a few different pumps, and I think that's another kind of con, is like they're expensive.
Yeah.
If you don't have somebody you know, or if you're not comfortable getting it on Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji or wherever the fuck people get things nowadays. But it's like, where was I going with that? What the heck?
Types of pumps? Different pumps?
Oh, it's just a lot. I think that's where I'm going.
It's just a lot.
Because you're trying different pumps, and then it's like, it depends on which one you choose. You feel like, I felt like before I got my hands free that I didn't mind using. I felt I was always attached to the wall. Mm-hmm. Or had the ones I have to like hold because I didn't get the pumping bra, which was a mistake. Get the pumping bra if you're going into pumping, for sure. And yeah, it was just I felt like always attached to something that was not my baby, and I couldn't do anything. He was a big baby, so I had a hard time doing anything with him, and I felt helpless. And it was just like, there's just so much going on in your mind. It is a lot.
It is so much.
So much. What was your biggest, like, mental fuckery?
I think I think it was at like the 3-month mark, or it was maybe 2 months, that I started realizing that, like, so I live with my parents. We're saving to buy a house.
Yeah.
I feel really blessed that I was able to go through my first postpartum with Nana and Poppy. Like right there to help out, right?
That's handy.
So I know that I'm really blessed in that sense. And my mom worked part-time at the time, so there were many mornings that she would be home and I could go to the living room and hang out with her for the day.
Right.
And any time that I needed to pump, she was happy to hold the baby. It's her brand new grandson.
Yeah.
So but there got to be a point where I was just like kind of sad that my mom got to hold my baby my newborn more than me, unless I did nothing. Like, unless I basically just like held him until the next pump, which I often did.
And no shame. Who cares about laundry or fucking mopping the floor?
Or like, planning a wedding.
Oh my God, I forgot.
Yes.
Okay, this bitch had a baby and then in May, and you got married in September.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I forgot. You're like making centerpieces while your kid's in the fucking swing beside. Oh my God, you're crazy.
I did.
Don't recommend, probably.
I do not recommend that. My cousin was going to do it, and I was like, can I give you some completely unsolicited advice? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, don't. And she was like, okay. I said that to her at my wedding. I loved my wedding. I have no regrets.
Yeah.
None. But I do not suggest it. It's not for the faint of heart. And I did it, like I said, with my mom practically like by my side for most of that. Like, especially
and for
with
people that don't
EP
have
support.
That too,
yeah.
Or like their partner is working a lot, like your partner had to go back to work right away, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you don't have somebody, definitely don't do a wedding.
Definitely don't do that. No, if we lived in our own house at the time, like, I would have moved to the wedding. Or just not planned it at the time. Because I think I did it all on purpose, if I remember correctly. It wasn't like any of it was an accident.
I don't remember. That's amazing. Actually, you know what? I want a sidebar on that note. We are not, this is a conversation. I just want for anyone listening, like, we are not sitting here, like, talking about all the bad things that come with it to, like, prevent you or, like, deter you from pumping or picking your journey. All of it's fucking hard. Breastfeeding's fucking hard. Formula feeding, like, everything has its pros and cons. So, like, you just have to find the hard that works for you. And we're just having a conversation for moms to not feel so alone or answer any questions if you're thinking about going into it. Oh, I never would have thought of all the dishes, or I never would have thought of, like, getting the right flange.
Just the right pump
altogether. That's so important. Something I never would have thought of.
I spend so much money. When my husband sees this, he's going to be like, I knew it. But, like, I originally bought the Avent pump, which is, like, the typical, like, Walmart one. It's pink, and it's a double electric. But you can't customize the flange size on it. That's it. And there's no other options. I tried to find any sort of hack I could find, and there's nothing.
You can't buy different ones for it?
No.
Okay.
So that's all you get.
So how would you know?
So I didn't know. And I mean, I'm not here to deter people from purchasing that pump, but I would say don't buy a pump. See if you can get a hand-me-down.
Try it
from someone and try whatever before you invest money into a pump.
That's fair.
Because I did end up using 2 regularly. One was a hand-me-down from my best friend who I got for completely free. And that was the one I swear by. And it was it's a wall pump, double electric Lansino pump.
Oh, okay.
I just for what it costs, I think it's $130 on Amazon for what it costs. And you got to spend the extra $70 for the double the parts or like a custom size.
Sure. But worth it.
But for what it costs, that pump is like strong. It gives you the suction you need. It has lots of options. Lots of other flange types from other companies will fit it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never used that one.
But it is a wall pump. Or it has batteries. So I did pump with it in the car with it several times.
I remember car pumping.
But I also bought a Medela. I don't
know if it was a
swing. It was a Medela swing.
I don't know the names of mine. Thank God you came prepared. Your memory's
Oh my
amazing.
God. But like, Rachel, I'm telling you, I also got another hand-me-down from someone for free, but it was a Medela that I thought it was broken. So that's why I bought the swing. And then I bought flanges. I thought I had elastic nipples for a while. I think I got a little obsessive is really what it comes down to. I was like determined to have more output when I just needed to be patient. And I kept thinking, well, my flange side is just too
because
wrong.
It's not supposed to pinch.
It's not supposed to pinch.
I thought, okay, at first I was like, this is normal. And then I'm like, this fucking hurts. I feel like this is not supposed to hurt like this.
Yeah.
No, get the right flange size, mamas. Get the right fucking flange size. And get the right pump, get the right setting. It's trial and error, unfortunately, because if you don't have hand-me-downs or things like that, it's expensive. Read your reviews. You know, try and talk to other moms if you have the same type of boob or nipple, right? Yeah. Like, for real, everyone's different biologically.
And the support group I was on actually will, you can work with a consultant who will help size you.
Nice. Do you have to send boob pics?
You do. I didn't know if I wanted to say that publicly because I want to keep the creeps from finding the group and being weird. But
they're private.
It is, it's a private group. Like you have to.
I mean, nothing really is on the internet, I guess.
Yeah, but yeah. So you do that.
Sorry, I had to ask the question. Did you send nudies?
Yeah, I tried the hands-free pump.
You hated it.
It felt like it was chewing me, and
I loved mine.
But I was lucky. I was lucky. I was able to send it back. It was through Amazon,
right.
And that seller, I probably just didn't think about the fact that they shouldn't have returns. So
I mean, I'm sure they maybe sterilize and
as far as I know, in Canada that you can't
you send it to America.
Well, I think Canadian rules require breast pumps are one time only. You can't even sell them on Facebook.
Oh, but people do.
Yeah, they do. But I put mine up thinking I could just put it up, and then they're flagged it. They're no, this is a medical device. You cannot sell this. And I was
oh.
So you have to be
I guess I didn't try selling mine because I don't know if I'm gonna have more kids or not, so I just kept it. But I had a Medela that my sister-in-law gave me. I'm thinking. I'm like, I can't remember if I gave her a few bucks or if I'm borrowing it. Technically, I don't know. Whatever. I still have it. So, Sam, if you need it, I still got it. And then I used that for a while, and then I was so sick of. Because I didn't really know about the bras. I didn't understand them. So I had to I'd put one here and hold it like this. And then I tried one hand feed my baby with the other. It was just a disaster. So I was like, okay, I need a hands-free one. And the Mom Cozy is the typical brand. Yeah. And they're so expensive. Go to Amazon. The Bella Baby, I'm pretty sure is what it was called.
Bella Baby. Yeah, that is what it was called.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, I liked it. I figured it out. And it was nice because I could walk around, and if I was doing my power pumping to try and up my supply, I didn't feel like I had to sit there for fucking 45 minutes. Yeah. And then it'd be and there's timers on it, which is nice. And there's timers on all of them, but still. Yeah. Yeah, I liked it. It was it would leak sometimes if you didn't put it on properly, so that's the only thing I would say about that. But yeah, it worked for me.
Yeah, no, I was pretty much attached to the wall. Or
thank God for your
batteries. And batteries.
Did you have the bra? Did you have to hold it, or
I basically had to hold it. Otherwise, so you asked me about this. Just reminded me. You asked me about did I ever get clogged ducts? Oh, if I didn't manually squeeze myself dry, I would get clogs. No. So it was a very labor intensive. And
they're
I was
these little
sitting there like this. It was a whole thing.
Manhandling yourself. Basically. And you know it's. I think you were the same way, but correct me, because I know I was for me. It was when you first start, you're kind of go by myself, be very like covered and private, and then it's like you get into it and you just stop caring. You're like, whatever, everyone can see my tittas. Like I'm sitting there like my in-laws are over. I'm just holding. I'm like, whatever. Yeah. I don't care. I just need to get this done and not take away more of my fucking day.
Pretty much, like, for the most part. Like I said, I live with my parents, so, like, I had to laugh because my dad was always, like, about, like, being respectful.
Dad's different.
So, like, the first time I was in the yeah.
Yeah. Our lights just went out. That was weird. Anyways. I'm sure we still look great.
The first time I was pumping in the living room, he was, like, turned his back to me and continued to have the conversation. So, like, I know he was just doing it to be polite, but I was just, like...
Uncomfortable.
I'm just, like, I literally don't care right now. And it's funny.
He's your dad. He's not going to sit there and be like, oh, they're... Like,
yeah. And, like, I pretty much didn't care at that point, but, like, I wasn't going to, like, do that at, like, parties with my husband's family. Like,
yeah,
that's
sure.
too much for me.
I wasn't
like,
that out there either, but, like...
But I did at my bridal shower. Like, I just sat on the couch because it was, like, everyone was women.
Was I there? I feel like... Did I miss your bridal shower?
You might have
not
been able to come.
When was it?
I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
The summer.
There's a reason for sure.
Probably. I'm sure.
I'm like, I don't remember that. Wait, I don't think I was able to make it to that.
But it was honestly, like, no one, like,
nobody
bat an eye.
cares. No one's watching. Like,
and I think some people were just like, "You go, girl," like, in their heads. Like, that's what I was.
I'm saying that now, and I wasn't even there. You go, girl. You pump those titties.
Yeah.
You're feeding your kid. I mean, it's not sexual. Like, I think that's
and I didn't even feel like I needed to be covered up.
That's amazing.
And then a week after I stopped, I was like, no, that'd be weird if I walked around the house topless. That'd be so weird. Like, all of a sudden, I got my boobs back.
Yeah.
And so I got my, like...
They were yours again.
Yeah, my need to cover again came back.
You know what? Same, actually.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I wonder if it's, like... I don't know what that is. I wonder if it's, like, a hormone thing, maybe? Because, like, when you stop... You get, like, less oxytocin, less... Whatever the fucking hormones are going to butcher them, but... Yeah, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we are talking about a lot about the cons, I feel like. So, like, let's bounce some pros of pumping. What was a good pro for you? I
think if I look back on it now, I couldn't even tell you, Rachel, whether or not
I love what you say about Rachel.
Want to like, breastfeed. Like, I still want to do it. But also, like, I think I want a combination, like, pump when I can, like, as much as I can, basically.
Yeah.
Because...
Try and do both.
So I pumped for 7 months. The 7th month was an accident. Because I didn't know the weaning process would take so long. But yeah, for 7 months. And then...
Wow.
And then I was done lactating.
Oh.
And then I was done. And so after that, I was like, like, I got my body back. The feeling of lactating, if you don't know, is not comfortable in any way.
You had yours way worse than I had mine. Like, you would know, like, 20 minutes before you're like, I'm tingling. It's going to happen soon. I was like, how do you know that? Like, my body doesn't do that.
I swear I got, maybe like, a good, like, half hour after I pumped where I was just like, okay, I feel like a person again. But I think really what I was getting was anxiety. Like, okay. I think it was a combination of, like...
I have to do this soon.
I have to go pump soon. And if I'm not going to be able to, I'm going to be uncomfortable.
So you were working yourself up.
I think it was some of my physical discomfort was actually psychological. But I didn't like that feeling of being, like, hard and full, right? Yeah. It would distract me from whatever I was doing. And it would like pull my mind away. I wasn't feeling like I was being present.
Yeah.
I appreciate
being honest about that, because I feel like you could easily just blame that on your body and not like look introspectively and be like, maybe I was contributing that too, because I was so almost obsessed. When I was in the thick of it, I was obsessed with my supply. I was constantly thinking about ounces and, okay, am I going to take fenugreek? Am I going to, like, power pump tomorrow? Like, I was constant. If I got an ounce less than I was hoping for, sad. Yeah. Instantly sad. Yeah. It's like, that's, I think, one of the we're going to go back to the pros in a second. But that was a downfall. Is like, it's so consumed. Not for everyone.
Right.
But we both struggle with anxiety as it is. Mm-hmm. And 100% hyper focused on certain aspects of it. For sure.
Definitely like trying to like make sure I was making a supply. And I could go into like the technicalities of how I collected milk like once I got into it, where I did the pitcher method. So I was actually pouring all my milk into one container and then filling bottles for the whole next day. I was able to get ahead because I did eventually build up an oversupply.
What did you do? Because your story is interesting, because not a lot of women can go from what did you call it, an undergiver,
not
enuffer to an oversupplier.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
I think
you worked hard for that.
I think it really has to do with the every 2 hours. So I was pumping 12 times a day for 3 months.
12 times a day?
Yeah, because every 2 hours.
Are you out of your fucking mind?
Like,
you're a
or
superhero.
10. Like, there were some times where I would just skip it, and it would just be 10 times a day, but it was 10 to 12 times a day for the first 3 months. And that's when your supply, like, locks in. I can't remember the term they use.
Yes, you're right. We'll come back to that because that's going to piss me off. I'm going to have to Google it.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, though. I've heard the term. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's... Established. When your supply is established.
Fucking nailed it.
They say... do they say 8 weeks or 12 weeks?
I think it's a range, 8 to 12.
8 to 12,
That sounds right.
Yeah. So, even after the 8 weeks, so for 12 weeks, so for 3 months, I was 10 to 12 times a day.
Wow.
And then after that, I dropped to 8.
Because you're like, okay, I've got the flow.
And I stayed at 8 until...
Did you do any,
I think I dropped down to 7 in the 6th month.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and then...
But if you do the math, 24 hours. Yeah, I think I was probably 8 because every 3 hours times 8 is 24.
Yeah.
Yeah. Math.
Yeah.
The math is mathing.
So I really think that was the only thing that contributed. Like, I mean, I drank lots of water. I made sure to get lots of protein.
You're doing cookies.
I was taking choline. I don't...
Choline sounds right.
I think choline's right, but it's spelled CHOLINE.
Yeah, choline.
Because I couldn't take the sunflower oil or...
Lectin.
Lectin. Yeah.
Is it lectin?
Lecithin. Fuck. I couldn't take that because I got really bad farts. Yeah.
That's going to be a real...
so bad.
I've just kind of cut that piece of the podcast, and that's going to be like, I got really bad farts.
Oh, good.
Okay, because that's supposed to make it like slippery and like not clog,
like help keep the clogs from happening.
Clogs from clogging.
But also like because it's keeping your milk thin is the wrong word. It's not like it thins it out, but hydrated,
more like viscous.
Yeah, so it's gonna flow. I think those that's it. Just
okay.
Yeah,
you just worked really hard because I know like
schedule.
There's a lot of like wives' tales out there and like different things some people swear by, and like that's the thing too that's difficult about it is what works for one person might not work for another, and that's why it's like you can't latch on to certain ideas because I was told fenugreek and what's it called, blessed thistle, or I think it's blessed.
That is a thing, but I didn't hear
it
that
was
yet.
The combination. I think my midwife suggested
Brewer's
it.
yeast was one of them.
Yep. No, and I was trying the fenugreek. I don't know if it was working or not because I kind of I don't know why. I just get lazy when it comes to taking like pills and stuff. I'm like, I'll look at the bottle and like the time it would take for me to take a pill out of the bottle and put it in my mouth. I'm like, no. And I was like, well, I don't know why. I'm just weird. But like, that was one I've heard. But then one of my friends was like, no, it actually can decrease your supply if you're one of those people it doesn't agree with. How are you supposed to... I was like, I'm not taking that chance, man.
And there's not a lot of research because
they're not.
I don't
it's
even
not medication.
think, and because exclusively pumping isn't really supported by the medical community.
There's a stigma, actually, I've found, like, because it's, I don't know why, because there's still, your baby's still getting breast milk, but I've seen videos, and, you know, you get down the rabbit hole on the internet where people are like, that's not the right way to feed your, everyone has their idea of what's the best, but it's like every mom and every baby has a different situation, and you just have to figure out what works for you and not give a fuck about what other people think. As hard as that is, that it's a lot of pressure, you know, and not everybody is going to be able to do the same thing. So, like, seeing that and allowing that to affect you, of people being like, pumping breast milk isn't the best way to give breast milk. Shut up.
So I think, at least from my experience, like, with the medical community, and this was really only in the baby unit, whatever that's called, I can't remember, maternity, and lactation consultants, sort of. So I think the biggest thing is, if you're going to breastfeed, they really want you to be successful. They want you to try.
Yeah.
We know it's hard. But if that's failing, or even if you choose, you're like, no, like, for personal reasons, I'm going to exclusively pump.
Yep.
It's hard. It's so hard at the beginning to do it with enough supply, because if you don't pump enough in the beginning, your supply will run short after that 8 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And if, you know, I found, like, the medical community is really big on making sure that you're going home with enough support to take care of a baby. And that's their biggest concern, right?
As it should be.
Right. So if you're going to do exclusive pumping, you almost have to have even more support than what they feel like you should have in order to be successful at that.
Right.
And so they're just like,
because it does
that's
take your
not a
hands
really
away
good
from your
idea.
baby.
Like, you should just breastfeed or just do formula. Like, that's their perspective, because otherwise you're adding undue stress to yourself.
And more work.
So in some ways I get it, but that's a
good perspective I never thought of.
It should still be, like, an option, or, like, it should, like, be explained, because then you have, like, you get to make the choice yourself. And it shouldn't
be, like, it shouldn't be spoken about, like, I think you're right in the fact that, like, they have to try and promote what they think is best, especially, like, professionals gone through the schooling. From a medical standpoint, breast is best, 100%. But we all know now that there's so many other factors that come into play, and that's not an easy black and white answer. But you're right in, like, they do have to give you what they're informed about, right?
Yeah.
But I think they can go about it in more of a way that's not, like, shameful. You know what I mean? Or, like, or
not just black and white. It's not it's not breastfeeding nursing versus formula. There's numerous things in between. Yeah.
Like, you did some breast milk and some formula. You did some breastfeeding and some pumping, and then there's so many different ways to do it, and no one way is the right way. Yeah. Because it doesn't work like that. Yeah. It's not 2 + 2 = 4, which is going to be 4 every single time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But where was I going to go? Unpause. Let's go back to the pros.
Okay. Yeah, because that actually sort of, like, because you were touching on that, like, I was done so I decided I wanted to be done at 6 months. I think at about month 5, I was like, can't do this anymore. Yeah. Or the end of month 5, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be done. Like, kept telling my husband, yeah, don't worry, next week I'm going to be done. I hadn't researched weaning.
Oh, bitch. Did you wean?
I did.
You're a good girl.
I did.
I went cold turkey, and those were the worst 5 days I've ever had in my fucking life, let me tell you.
I bet. But I was so terrified of A, getting a clog, and B, getting mastitis. And because of the feelings that I had surrounding being full, I couldn't handle that.
That's fair. It's a lot.
And now, like, I ended up going down to, like, there was a period where I was going, like, pumping 4 times a day, and I was still getting the same output. So if I had known sooner, at probably through, like, that month 5, I could have dropped to like, I could have kept dropping pumps until like I reached like the supply I wanted.
Sure.
And maintained that. But I got so sick of it so fast, especially the dishes.
That's a lot
that
of dishes.
like I was just like, I'm so ready to be done with this. I calculated that I would have that by the end of 6 months I would have enough of a supply to get me to the end of 9 months, and then I would only have to do formula for 3.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Or like, and then transition to cow's milk between 3 to 12, or whatever the
recommended
thing was going to be.
Yeah.
And so I did that. But yeah, so I weaned through month 7 until I wasn't pumping anymore. And then I was at baby group. Mm-hmm. And I was just listening to a mom tell me her story about weaning. And I just had not considered the part where if I was breastfeeding, it's not just this decision I can make with a unit that I plug into the wall. There's a little baby screaming at you, telling you what to do, right?
Right.
So, like, I didn't have to wean him. I didn't have to do anything with him. His day didn't change. He didn't yell at me for it or not for it.
Right.
Like,
that's a good point. It's an easier transition off.
It's completely up to me.
Yeah.
To be done.
Right.
It's not up to him.
Yeah, that's one I never really thought about.
So I was just like, oh.
I guess on that note too, for moms that don't know pumping in terms of like why it's such a regimented schedule, I think I'm gonna sidebar again, but it's important to know like and understand that the reason for the pumping every 2 to 3 hours is like your pump is replacing that of your baby, right? So you're pumping, telling your body, if your baby was breastfeeding, your baby's telling your body how much milk it needs, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if your baby's not on your boob, you have to, oh, did it go in?
Nope.
Well, you have to pump to tell your body what milk you need. So if you skip a pump, if you get lazy in the middle of the night, which I've totally done, we'll do it, your body's going to go, oh, okay, I maybe don't need to produce as much at this time because your baby's not eating it. But you don't have the baby, you have the pump, so that's why schedules are important to keep your supply up.
And that's
until
mainly
it's
only until it's established.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to
the pros. Yeah.
I think bonding, they can, like, 'cause I think feeding in general, I mean, obviously if you're breastfeeding, you and your baby get that bonding, but I think feeding in general, even with a bottle, allows for other people to bond with your baby. Mm-hmm. Feeding is a great bonding because that's what the baby wants the most, right? Is the food. So if you're the one feeding, they're like, oh, I love you. So your husband gets to do it, your parents get to do it, if your friends are, and I think that's a cool one.
My mom did it a lot, right?
Right.
So that then he could be fed and I could pump at the same time and then hold him for a little bit, right? So
do they have a good relationship now?
They have an awesome one. And like she's our childcare as well right now, part-time. So so like he will like reach out for her almost as much as he'll reach out for me, and he's a happy guy. So like he really he'll actually snuggle with anybody unless you have a beard, and then he's skeptical.
Same.
So he's there's like bonding is a good plus for sure.
Yeah. And the one you like not being attached to their timeline, I think is I never thought of that one. Mm-hmm. Being able to quit whenever the fuck you want, basically,
yeah.
But,
within,
it's not that easy, but I know, you know what I mean.
And because I was an oversupplier, I also got to quit before my baby stopped getting breast milk.
Yes. 100%. What's another pro? The pros, like, maybe it doesn't sound like there's as many necessarily as, like, we were talking about, like, the ins and outs of it, but they do weigh heavily, right? Like, your baby's still getting your breast milk, even if you're not directly feeding, which is a huge pro, because that's all your antibodies and hormones and whatever the heck else they're getting, right? The vitamins and everything. It's cheaper.
It's cheaper. That is a big one.
It's a bigger upfront cost because you have to like buy the bottles and the supply bags and the pump and like if you're using sterilizing equipment and all that. But at the end of the day, you're not spending how much, which I learned quickly after I stopped pumping. That formula is a huge chunk out of the wallet.
Oh my God. And we picked our formula from Walmart, and it was like a sensitive stomach Parents' Choice brand.
Okay.
And that was at like, I think, like 9. I was at the 9 months when I started like supplementing, cutting half the breast milk, half formula so that he would start getting used to it.
Right, yep.
And then I swear I bought maybe like a month and a half's worth of supply of it, and they nixed it, and it was $25 a can. Yeah, for 900 grams. And then like I
never look at that.
He basically refused every formula after that except for Enfamil sensitive stomach. But I had to add, basically the one day I had a breaking point because I ran out of supply, and he wasn't taking the formula, so I added cow's milk. And he took it, and when I saw the doctor, he's like, yeah, I'm good with that. Like half and half is fine. At this age, at his weight, as his height,
11 months.
Yeah, like 9.5, 10 months, something like that. Yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm good with that.
As long as he's still getting some of the vitamins and all that, right?
But like, he still really didn't like formula, and I think by 11 months he was on milk.
Whatever. Most things say 12 months. I've seen some that say 10. So
he's also huge, so
he's
like
eating food.
He's bigger than most 1-year-olds, so that's what I'm going with.
Well,
he was not malnutritioned or whatever you call it. Malnutritioned. Malnourished.
So you decided to stop. You weaned off into the 7th month. And was your decision based on like, okay, I've got enough supply to carry me over? Or was it like, you know what, I'm fucking sick of this? Or was it both? Or like, what was your like, how did you know you were ready?
I knew I was ready because I wasn't emotional about it at all.
Oh, okay.
Like, my emotions were just like, no. Like,
I'm done. Cool.
I was over it, and it didn't make me sad. And, man,
you really persevered.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
That was almost like double the time.
I knew I was gonna, and I started with I'm just gonna try this for 2 months. Like, that's where I started. Like, I didn't have the goal of making it to 6 months. It was just like, wow. I made it to 2 months. I guess I'll see if I can make it to 3. And by the 3rd month, I was like, I got the hang of this.
Was there any point in that you were like, this is too much for me? Or were you always
probably like once a week?
Okay. I'm like, thank God she's human, because I had that like every other day.
Yeah. No. At least once a week, where I was just like, especially like, really, it just came down to like the dishes, and like my husband works 12.5-hour shifts 3 days a week. God. And he rotates between days and nights, and so like his sleep schedule is all over the place. He's
as helpful as he can be.
Job is physical, and then we also have a 5-year-old whenever he's not working. So, or he was 4 at the time, so It was just like a lot of it came down to like what I could do. Like, he helped when he could.
Yeah.
But there were, 6 days in a row when he wasn't there for 12.5 hours in the day, or 24 hours, because he'd have to sleep and then go to work. And that was it.
Which, to no fault of his, like, that's obviously his job, but yeah, like, that's putting you, I mean, if you weren't living with your parents, then how are you supposed to manage all of that by yourself? That's a lot.
Yeah.
And then waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Because he needs to sleep for work. That was always my thing. Like, I was like, I know my husband has to work, but like, the second I'm up in the middle of the night and I'm tired, I'm like looking at him sleeping next to me, and I'm like, I fucking hate you. Not really, but like, you know what I mean? Like, in that moment, you're like,
Well, and I think, like, too, like, I don't know, did you get the rage?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got the rage.
Did I let it out? Not really.
No, me neither. I held on to it for a long time. And I think anytime you have a baby with someone, there comes a point where you have to reevaluate your priorities, your expectations,
100%.
Your limitations, and they need to do the same. And then
We
you
have
need
to reevaluate because you're not the same person.
Yeah.
You are like everything's, as much as people are like, no, nothing changes, don't let it change your life. It changes your fucking life. Everything's different. You're different. Your body's different. Your communication with your relationship's different because you have this other thing that is priority. They can't walk and talk and feed themselves. Sorry, like we need to like, unfortunately that not unfortunately, but you know like in terms of your relationship, it's unfortunate, but like it's a lot to navigate and you have to figure it out. And
my husband did it before. Like, he had a baby before. And so there were things that he felt like he was just trying to let me experience. Because he already got to experience that.
Right.
And I was like, I've experienced this 15 times this week. I'm done experiencing it. Your turn. But it took like communicating responsibly. And remembering to give each other grace. Like, God, he gave me so much grace because I was seething at him a lot. And he still just did. I didn't act on that rage, right? But people can read, right?
It seeps through in your energy.
Yeah.
You're only a human being.
Yeah.
And when you're sleep deprived and like when whether you're breastfeeding or pumping, your hormones are fluctuating so much throughout the day and through the night, and you're sleep deprived, like I said, and like it's exhausting, even if you do get a normal amount of sleep, which is like not possible. So your ability to like compartmentalize and navigate your emotions down the toilet.
Yeah.
And I worked very hard on that for like a lot of years to just like be in control of my emotions and not even necessarily control my emotions, but like recognize them and control how I react with them.
Yeah.
That just goes out the freaking window when you are like running on 2 hours of sleep and your baby's screaming and you're trying to pump and there's just so much going on. And I get overstimulated, especially now with a kid. And like I have 2 crazy dogs, which you know. So it's like when there's too much going on, I'm just like, everyone get the fuck away from me. Like you just snap sometimes. And it's just like not pretty, but you just have to own it and just.
I have 2 like ways of like not being good with my emotions, and one is to just be like snippy and passive aggressive, or an absolute.
What's the worst thing you
sad
said?
Meltdown. That's the thing. I didn't.
Oh, you know?
No. Like snippy. Like it would just be like.
Well, you get to go to bed.
Well, if you given his bottle 15 minutes sooner, wouldn't have this problem. Like things it was just little stuff that.
And you feel like you're 16 again, being like, well,
exactly.
man.
And like you hear it come out of your mouth and you're like, I'm gonna hold on, I'm gonna dig my heels in on this, I mean it. But also you're like, oh, I wish I really didn't say that.
But in the moment you're like, yeah. And then like 2 hours later when you're like not mad, you're like, I could probably apologize for that.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. Or like,
yeah, I feel that.
And then, or like I'm the queen of just having a big sob fest.
Oh, I am the most emotional bitch. Yeah.
Just like breaking down, like, I can't do this anymore. You never help me. You're not helpful. Like, it just like not productive conversations. And it didn't come until probably about 10 months where I was just like, we have to have, and it is hard. We live with my parents.
True.
So some conversations that we may needed to have sooner probably would have happened sooner if we could have addressed them at the time. But I don't want
else around. Yeah,
I don't want other people to hear my conversations with my husband, and my husband sure doesn't want his in-laws to listen in on those conversations.
Yeah, so I wouldn't either. Can't say. Yeah.
So when we had time together and that we could actually talk, we didn't really want to waste it hashing
It was just
crap
like, you kind
out.
of just sweep it under the rug.
It was just
because,
like, oh, like, we just want to enjoy this time together.
Yeah.
We just want to bond with our baby, like, until, like, it came to a head, and then, yeah.
Oh my gosh, totally. I totally remember those moments where it's like, we probably should, even, we don't live with our in-laws, but even then it's like, when you're constantly around your baby, or, you know, my husband would have to take the dogs out, because, like, I literally couldn't walk for the first few weeks, barely, right? So it's like, he has to do, like, he's got to go to work. Okay, finally we have an hour where the baby's sleeping, and the two of us can just, like, hang out. Why do we want to spend that hour, like you said, when you do have your alone time, having difficult conversations, or, like, talking about your shit? It's like, no, let's just, like, have some snacks, cuddle on the couch and watch a movie, and just, like, forget about it for now.
Yeah.
And then it's not the most healthy thing. It builds up, and
Yeah.
some people explode. Some people are able to have that productive conversation, but
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Mm.
It's not.
No.
What would you give advice to a mom that's right now in the very thick of, say, 3 months into exclusive pumping, and they're, like, in the thick of it, they're feeling everything, they're like, this is too much, I don't know what to do? What would you say to that mom?
I don't know. I would say the thick of it is 2 months, like, before your supply is established.
Okay, sure.
And I would want to give them advice at that time, because once their supply is established,
Oh, I'm sure there's a mom right now.
Like, just trust that if that's your supply, and it's okay. It doesn't matter if you don't have to be an oversupplier. You don't have to make enough for your baby. There's formula out there for a reason. But any amount that you're giving your baby counts. So keep it up.
I love that, yes.
So any amount you can give your buddy counts. Like, I don't know about you, but like I said, I have a 5-year-old at home, so it was his first year of school. So we've been sick all the time. So in that 7 months of pumping, anytime my baby was sick, I was sick. But I knew that I was giving him the antibodies for those illnesses.
Right.
So especially, like, just think, you know, why am I still pumping if I'm not making enough? Well, you're doing it because, like, that's going to help your baby get through whatever virus is passing through.
Yeah.
This is the hardest part. The first 2 months is the hardest part.
Especially for a new mom.
And after 12 weeks, you're not going to boost your supply. Not likely. I know there are people out there who say you can, but don't worry about it. Just don't. Just do what you can when you can.
Yeah.
And
know that what you're doing is you're doing your best.
Yeah. And try dropping pumps if you're starting to feel overwhelmed and you're past 12 weeks. Start to drop pumps and see if your supply stays the same. I would say do the pitcher method if you can. Even if that means feeding your baby, like, half formula for a couple days so you can get a whole day ahead. Or, whatever you need to do to get that full day ahead. To have, like, basically, so I would pour all of my milk into one container for 24 hours. And then at night, I would fill all my bottles up for the next day. And then whatever extra I had, I would bag up. And then I would start over with the pumping. So my baby is always getting a day-old milk.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Those are, like, the biggest things.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think anyone that is doing anything needs to know you're doing enough. You're doing what you can, and your baby's fine. You're doing what you need to do for your baby. You're there for your baby. If you're thinking about it at all, you are not a bad mom.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Like, I have said this to other people before. It's like, bad moms don't know they're bad moms. Bad moms don't think about that stuff. If you're thinking about that stuff, you're 10 steps ahead, mama.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing great. So I appreciate that. Well, I thank you.
Welcome.
This was awesome.
This was awesome.
Anyone thinking about pumping or in the midst of pumping or doing both, I think this conversation is going to open a lot of stuff that I wish I knew. You know what I mean? Or knew that what's an option. Kind of at least preparing someone, because we're all different, so we're all going to struggle with different things during our motherhood journeys, our feeding journeys. But I think even knowing little things that, like, we never would have thought of if you didn't hear somebody say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to Google. Like, there's no Googling half of the shit that we talked about today. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you opening up and having a conversation. And I always like to wrap up with my rapid fire mom questions.
Okay.
I didn't give you these.
No, you didn't. You did warn me that I was going to have
okay,
questions.
Some, yeah. But they're easy. So, M, what is your most memorable moment as a mom so far? It can be anything.
It's several moments, but like the first time I felt like Oliver actually hold me, like put his little arm around my neck and give me a little hug.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I think that's the most memorable. There's so many other things, but oh god, it's so hard to choose just one thing.
It is. But I like that. I like that answer. That's so cute.
Yeah.
O is for opinion. So what's something you kind of had an opinion of before becoming a mom that changed after you became a mom? Like I always give my example of screen time. Like I'm always like, when I was pregnant, I was like, I'm never letting my baby watch TV, watch screens. And then I became a mom and I was like, I need to make dinner. So here's Miss Rachel.
Sugar.
Okay.
I was like, absolutely not. My baby will not have even a tiniest bit of sugar before he's 1 year old. This kid loves food, and I couldn't keep up, and so I ended up giving him like yogurt, and then someone at a party was just like, oh, here's a little bit of icing from a cake, and like, do I actually care to fight a person? No. Does it really affect him? Maybe, but. Yeah, he's happy. He's well fed. He eats so good. Like he is not really a picky kid. So
I hate you.
I'm sorry.
Literally 3 days ago, my kid ate. Well, first he liked eggs when we first started doing food. Then he didn't like eggs for a long time. Tried them again on Mother's Day. Liked eggs. So like Monday, Tuesday, I'm like, cool. Eggs are easy. Ate the eggs. Yesterday. Nope. Spit them right. I'm like, you. And I'm like, go through the effort of like cooking them on the stove. And then I don't want them after his grummy hands of like, and there's ketchup. No. Bitch.
Oliver doesn't really like chicken.
That's weird.
It is weird.
Eggs I get because like texture, but chicken?
Yeah.
Everybody likes chicken.
Yeah, he doesn't really like chicken. He's a vegetarian. He likes meat. He likes meatballs.
Meatballs. I love
He likes fish.
My kid only eats fish if it's breaded, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't think I've even offered him breaded fish yet.
Oh, smart.
It was just trout at the dock.
Just some trout.
Just some trout.
Out from the creek down yonder. Ew, okay. The last one. What is the most annoying thing your kid does right now in this stage?
He claws your face and then like pushes it out of the way so he can try and climb over your shoulder and jump into the air.
Wow.
But like that's
aggressive.
Like he is so aggressive when he wants to go somewhere. Like he thinks he can just like swim, like claw his way there, climb his way there, or swim through the air. Like he has no concept of gravity. Yeah. That's so cute. But like the nails, it's the grabbing the face and like pushing your face out of the way and just like no concept.
It doesn't matter if you've like shaved them, like they're still sharp.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
Kids suck. No. Well, I think that calls it for today. Yay. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, this has been so much fun. Well, mamas, thank you for tuning in. I hope you loved our little pumpy chat session, and I will talk to you next time. Mwah! Disclaimer. In no way do the conversations on this podcast replace the advice of health professionals. We are just speaking from our own experiences and what has worked for us. So speak to your midwives, OBs, or family doctors when necessary. When listening, always remember that every mom and every child is different, and what may work for one person might not work for another. There is no one way is the right way when it comes to parenting. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of MomFriends. Please like and subscribe to us so we can grow our beautiful motherhood community together. Talk soon. Mwah.